Welcome back, it's Donwozi here, and in today's video I'm going to be updating my Apothis magicka Sorcerer pet build for the Summerset expansion. Just a quick note that the written version to this build will be exclusively on dotsgaming.com, and I will put the link in the description. So without further ado, we're going to get into the build. Just a quick note that there are quite a few interchangeable sets and skills, stuff like that, depending on what setup you're running. But this was the best setup for me. This was the best setup that I found anyway. And I wanted to try make my builds really accessible instead of having to farm this trial set or having to farm Maelstrom for a Maelstrom weapon. Even though the build does feature a Maelstrom weapon, you'll see on the DPS tests at the end that you do not need a Maelstrom weapon or Trials gear to hit Trials DPS numbers. So without further ado, we're going to get into the build. So our stats with just a potion up are 51k magicka, 16.4k health, 10k stamina, 2,542 spell damage, 51% crit, and 1,441 magicka. We are running the Thief Munderstone, and the food we are running is Clockwork Citrus Fillet. We are not a vampire, but if you feel like you want to become a vampire, then it is entirely up to you. Just make sure in fire heavy fights, in trials especially, that you scale your vampire down with double Bloody Mara. So obviously Clockwork Citrus Fillet is the food we're using if you struggle with sustain. If you cannot afford the Clockwork Citrus Fillet because they are too expensive, then I would suggest buying some Witch Mother's Brew and putting a few more points into health or maybe a glyph. If you are in very short fights where sustain is not an issue, then I would suggest using the Solitude Salmon Millet Soup, which is the buy food, which increases max health by 5,395 and max magicka by 4,936. Double Bloody Mara gives 3,724 max health and 351 health recovery, and 3,457 magicka and 319 magicka recovery for 2 hours. The potions we're using is Essence of Spell Power, which grant you Major Sorcerer, increasing your spell damage by 20% for 47.6 seconds. Grants Major Prophecy, which gives you basically 10% more crit, 2,191 spell critical rating for 47.6 seconds, and restores 7,582 magicka. Also grants you Major Intellect, which increases your magicka recovery by 20% for 47.6 seconds. So now I've gone over the consumables. Now I'm going to go over the gear, and we do have a few different gear choices. So the build that I will be running, which is the Apothis build, will feature 5 elegance, so 5 Queen's Elegance, 2 Alambris, and 5 Necropotence. So the 5 Queen's Elegance will be on the front bar. If you do not have a Maelstrom Lightning Staff or a Maelstrom Staff at all, you can use Elegant Lightning Staff. That is entirely up to you. I'm using double lightning, but you can use fire on the front bar and lightning on the back. I do suggest using lightning on the back bar. So on the front bar we have an Elegant Staff infused with a flame damage enchant. You can use a flame or a shock damage enchant. The DPS was very similar. I just prefer the flame damage enchant because when you go in groups, there is enough concussion up with the sock, and because we're using double lightning, there is enough concussion up time. If you were using lightning and fire, then I would suggest, if you're using it on the front bar, put a shock damage enchant on the front bar. So on the back bar we are using a Maelstrom Lightning Staff infused with a Berserker enchant. We're also running 2-piece Alambris, 5-piece Necropotence, and obviously 3-piece Elegant on the jewellery. All the big pieces, so the head, the chest and the legs, are infused and enchanted with maximum magicka. The reason we've gone infused this patch is because Zenimax have changed the way that light attacks scale with max magicka and spell damage, so they've made them scale more or less the same. So that makes magicka more efficient now. So that's why we've gone with infused over divines, because of the Munderstone we are running. Infused is just slightly better. If you have full divines, then no need change it, because it's not too much better. But also infused offers you more maximum magicka, so more sustain and bigger damage shields. That's why I have chosen that. And the rest, the small pieces, are all divines. Everything is enchanted with max magicka enchantments, and the jewellery is all spell damage enchantments. So the next setup I'm going to tell you about would be a fire elegant staff on the front bar, and if you don't have a maelstrom staff, a lightning elegant staff on the back bar. The rotations will all be the same, except from if you're running, if you have a perfected asylum staff, you can run that on the front bar, and still a maelstrom lightning staff on the back bar, and then 2-piece alambras, 5-piece necropotence, and 3-piece willpower. But that is entirely up to you. All setups are relatively similar. I've set this build up so you can change it with Sorcerer, because Sorcerer is the best set in the game right now. So basically you would just get the 3 rings and the front bar staff, but I don't have the perfected Sorcerer, and I don't really want to use the non-perfected Sorcerer, even though it would be better. It would pull out better DPS, and it would be better for trials. I just wanted to make builds that are easily accessible from overland, rather than having to find 12 people and farm a trial. So, plus I really like the elegant set, and the reason I chose the elegant set, you'll see when I get into the skills, which I'm going to go over now. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments about gear setups, if I've missed anything. So our skills are, on the front bar we have Crystal Fragment, Elemental Weapon, Summon Volatile Familiar, Liquid Lightning, Bound Aegis, and Thunderous Rage on the front bar. On the back bar we have Daedric Prey, Blockade of Storms, the Familiar again, because you have to double bar it, Hardened Ward, and the reason I take Hardened Ward over the other morph is because I just prefer bigger shields. If you're very comfortable with mechanics and stuff like that, even though I'm comfortable with mechanics, I just still prefer bigger shields, because if you get frame drop in trials and stuff like that, I don't know, I just feel safer with a bigger shield. But if you're fine with that, then I would suggest going with the other morph to give more magicka recovery to your team. But that is entirely up to you again. The 5th skill on the back bar is Bound Aegis again. You do not need this on both bars. I just like to have it on both bars, so I have the magicka on both bars. But you do not need it. You do not need to double slot it anymore. It is not a toggle anymore. So basically you could put something here like Trap Beast, or something along them lines, or the new skill, which gives you, I think it's minor force from the Sigicorda skill tree. And on the back bar we are using Shooting Star as our ultimate. I prefer this for the extra magicka recovery from passives and the extra max magicka you get. If you want to change to the Summon Storm Atronach or the Charge Storm Atronach, it's entirely up to you. The Storm Atro will be better in single target, and it does give better group utility, so I would suggest that if you're running in trials. But I use Shooting Star just from personal preference. So that's it for the skills. If you have any questions about the skills, then obviously again leave it in the comments. The reason we are using the elegant set, the main reason, is because of this skill, Elemental Weapon. Infuse your weapon with power, causing your next light attack used within 2 seconds to deal an additional 8,869 magic damage, and apply the burning, concussed, or chill elemental status effect. So basically you cast this and your next light attack is empowered by this skill, and we also get another 20% increase to our light and heavy attacks because of the elegant set. So that's why I'm using that to buff this skill, and it also buffs our light attacks, because remember that light attacks are a massive chunk of our DPS. So that's why I really wanted to go for that set, and it actually worked, as you can see later on in the DPS tests at the end of the video. And they say it's not sustainable, the magic sword, because it has a lot of costly skills. Well, I sustained very well on a 6mm dummy, and I would easily be able to sustain in a trial with shards, orbs, and like worm and stuff like that. So don't worry about that. So now I'm going to go over the passives. You want to take all the dark magic passives, all the Daedric summoning passives, all the storm calling passives, all the destruction staff passives, all the light armor passives, windwalker passive in medium armor if you have the skill points for it. Also, same if you have the skill points for it, take resolve, constitution, and juggernaut. I also take Banish the Wicked in the Fighters Guild for a little bit more ulti gen, but that's entirely up to you. Also take all the Mages Guild passives if you are running Shooting Star and Inner Light. If you are not running a Mages Guild skill, then I would not suggest taking any of the passives, it's just a waste of skill points. Take all the Psijic Orders passives, all the Undaunted passives, all your racial passives, and most importantly the Medicinal Use passive, to basically have a 100% uptime on potions. Also, I recommend these two if you have the skill points for them. They just give you an extra, I think it's up to 20 minutes on your eating food or drinks. Especially if you're running costly food like Clockwork Citrus Fillet, it just gives you an extra bit more time. But that's if you've got the skill points. If you have not, then I would not suggest that. So now I'm going to go over the champion points. In the green tree we have 56 into Warlord, 75 into Arcanist, 64 into Tenacity, 21 into Shadow Ward, 34 into Tumbling. We have 51 into Elfborn, 56 into Elemental Expert. We have 31 into Spell Erosion, but if you are at pen cap in a trial, then I would suggest only putting 22 points into Spell Erosion, and then putting the rest in either Elfborn, Master at Arms, or like spread them out between them. We have 37 points into Master at Arms and 75 points into Thaumaturge for the Exploiter passive. As I said previously, there isn't a big difference between not having the Exploiter passive and having the Exploiter passive. The only reason I take the Exploiter passive, so 75 points into Thaumaturge, is because the magicka sorcerer does excel, especially the pet sorcerer, it excels at AoE damage, and 75% of fights in trials and dungeons are AoE damage, not single target damage. So it just, having a lot more AoE gets you through like fights a lot quicker. Plus now, I think, and don't quote me on it, I think a lot of bosses that could not be set off balance last patch can be set off balance this patch or in previous patches, because now off balance has a cooldown. There is no point in having enemies that cannot be set off balance. I don't know, I'm not too sure on that though, so don't quote me on it. I think I heard Zynode say it in one of his videos. So if anyone does know about that, then please leave it in the comments. But the reason we have 75 points into Thaumaturge is because you can set literally everything, every ad off balance, because ads in trials or dungeons cannot be immune to off balance, whereas bosses can. Well, not immune, but obviously it's on a cooldown. The cooldown does not apply to ads and just normal trash mobs. So in the red tree we have 61 points into Ironclad, 26 points into Spell Shield, 56 into Hardy and Elemental Defender, 40 into Thick Skinned, and 11 into Bastion. But just remember that the red and green trees are all about personal preference and what is suitable for the dungeon or trial you are going into. In terms of dungeons, I won't really change my CP for every single dungeon. If it's a really hard dungeon and you're finding it difficult, then optimize your CP around it, especially the red tree. In terms of trials, then I would suggest optimizing your CP around every single trial. It just makes them a lot easier, and I would suggest talking to your raid leader about that, what CP would be optimal for it, because they probably will know better than I will. But that's the champion points. So now I'm gonna go over the rotation, and we have a new rotation this patch. I actually thought about this rotation when I was theory crafting the build last patch. So basically you start off obviously always with your ultimate, so it would be ultimate straight away, light attack liquid lightning, light attack pet bar swap, light attack prey, light attack wall bar swap, and then you would go 1, 2, 3, 4 elemental weapons or crystal frags. Just remember, if you proc a crystal frag in between your elemental weapons, then that will take priority, but that will count as 1. So you will always do 4 spammables, but say if you do 2 spammables and you get a crystal frag, then it will be 3 elemental weapon, 1 crystal frag. If you get 2 crystal frags, then it'll be 2 crystal frags, 2 elemental weapons. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to do it a bit quicker, and it's always the same. Obviously I got a crystal frag there, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then liquid lightning, pet, prey, wall of storms, start again, 1, 2, 3, 4, liquid lightning, pet, bar swap, prey, wall of storms, bar swap, crystal frag, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it is literally all that the same over and over again. You want to start with the Destrawul and use the meteor always after that, unless you're in a really long fight. Then I would suggest using your Destrawul, and then when the boss is getting around 25%, just keep using meteor. So if you have any questions about the rotation or anything like that, the build, anything I've left out, then please hit me up. This build did get 41k DPS without a maelstrom weapon or trial set, should I say, sorry. And that is it for the video, guys. Remember to follow my Twitter, my Facebook, YouTube. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe. Join us on Discord for the easiest way to contact me, or for build advice and stuff like that. Also, I will be moving to Twitch. The link will be in the description. I will be live streaming on Twitch eventually. I'm not going to start it yet because I want my YouTube to grow even more, but I would really appreciate if you all went over to Twitch and left me a follow, just to make the transition to Twitch a lot easier. And that's it for the build, guys. As I said again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment, leave me a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be informed whenever I upload a video, and watch out for the DPS tests coming on next. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.